Welcome to Cryptid, where we go over the supernatural, the paranormal, and the dark histories of the real world. Let's get into it. Quick note, make sure you hit the 98% of my viewers are not subscribed. If you do me a favor, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for me while you are down there, and make sure make sure you hit that bell. I'm posting every day until December 31st. Then I might go on a normalized schedule. Who knows? But that doesn't matter. You get 6 months straight of content out of me. So, let's go. And any ideas to help me improve my content, make it better? If I ever miss anything on a creature that's an important detail, make sure you comment below or DM me on Instagram. All those my links will be in the description down below. And as always, I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get into it. Today, we are going into Canada. We're going into the snowy forest of Canada. The indigenous folklore-ridden creature that has haunted many people of thoughts of cannibalism and sustainable hunger. And join me as we go into the history, the sightings, the lore, and the stories surrounding the one and only, the fabled Wendigo. Let's go. Alright, our story begins vast forests, Great Lakes region, and central regions of Canada. The legend of the Wendigo is deeply rooted in its folklore of the Algonquian. I think that's right. If I'm not and I butchered that, I am very sorry. Do not flame me. Anyways, speaking tribes, which include the Ojibwe, Cree, and Algonquin peoples, and those tribes. These tribes have passed down chilling tales of the Wendigo for generations, describing the monstrous being with a heart of ice. When I did research for this, just a very interesting side note. President Theodore Roosevelt, in his book, supposedly encountered a Wendigo, which I just thought was a little interesting interjection of side note. He mentions it in his book. I just think that's, when I was doing research, I figured that out, and I thought that was actually pretty funny, and just interesting that a former president of the U.S., before he was president, when he wrote his book, he made a point to mention the cryptid, saying he had an encounter with it, which that's just always interesting to see and fun to see in biographies and stuff like that. Alright. The word Wendigo roughly translates to the evil spirit that devours mankind. According to legend, the Wendigo is malevolent, cannibalistic spirit that possesses humans, driving them to commit acts of murder, cannibalism. It is often associated with cold, harsh winters and the desperate times of famine. So pretty much, for these tribes, it was an evil thing where it was the evil spirit that, if during times of famine, if you committed like cannibalism or murder in any way, it would just transform you into a Wendigo-like creature. One of the earliest recorded mentions of the Wendigo in Western literature comes from the Jesuit Relations, a series of annual reports by Jesuit missionaries in the 17th century. In 1661, the reports described the Wendigo creature that terrorized the native population, causing madness and a lust for human flesh. So we have the first officially reported sighting in 1661. This is dating back near Kraken times. Kraken was way before this, but like the big documents of them, Kraken times, Nessie times, even Skinwalker, Jersey Devil times. So this is a long-lasting creature, as we've seen before on the channel. Descriptions of the Wendigo vary, but common elements include gaunt, emaciated bodies, ash gray skin, sunken eyes is often depicted with a skeletal frame and antlers or horns, giving its monstrous appearance. The Wendigo is said to grow size with each person it consumes, forever driven by its insatiable hunger. I cannot English today. Sorry. Anyways, just go over that real quick for a quick side note. It is very interesting to see how closely knit everything is in my research. I've seen all three tribes that I've read that I said in the beginning that I have mentioned. They are very close in lore. Some discrepancies here and there, but they were very minute. The basic story of it was pretty much the same. So it's very interesting to see how big and how important everything going into this lore has been on communities and the cryptozoology community as well. It is probably one of the more well-known creatures. We see it a lot in video games. A lot in video games. We see it a lot in media. We see it a lot in books and stuff. You see it in horror shows, horror movies. Not a lot, but you will still see it every now and then. One of the most famous cases involving the Wendigo legend is the story of Swift Runner, a Cree man who lived in Alberta, Canada in the late 1800s in the winter of 1878. The Swift Runner, that is his name. Just for those that are confused, that is the Cree man's name, Swift Runner. I don't know how tribes like that do names, but I believe that it's on their job. I'm pretty sure. Depends on the tribe, but I'm pretty sure it's on their job is their name. Maybe. That's just what it seems like from what I've read. So if I'm horribly wrong, please correct me in the comments. But just from what I've read, that's what I've seen. Anyways, Swift Runner and his family were stranded during severe winter. Despite being near emergency supplies, he succumbed to Wendigo psychosis, a condition described in native lore that killed and ate his family. So, in this native lore, if you have a mental break, nowadays that would just be called a psychotic break. So at that time in the tribe, if you would have had a psychotic break, killed the ones close to you and ate them, it would have been Wendigo psychosis instead of just naming it a complete psychotic break as we would now. At the same time, it is 1878. We're not, as we have pretty much no research on mental psychology at this point. They have no research of like psychology and how the brain works, mental health, and all of that. So there's that, and also it is a tribe, so they weren't in depth with civilization at the time, even though I don't think civilization at the time also would have the tools to do that. At the time, I believe lobotomies that was probably way later. Now I think about it, yes, lobotomies are way later than this. So they didn't have really any mental health or psychotic care for people like that. So blaming it on a Wendigo type thing, it kind of makes sense at the time. So Thrunner was arrested and confessed to the murders. He claimed to have been possessed by the Wendigo spirit. In 1879, he was tried and executed for his crimes, but his case remains one of the most cited examples of Wendigo psychosis. So the guy gets arrested, gets taken to court, blames it on Wendigo psychosis. And court doesn't believe him. Just says, "Okay, yeah, you're crazy. You're gonna serve life." And this is probably one of the most cited. As I said, it was the most cited case for Wendigo psychosis, which is interesting. An 1878 case would be one of the most cited. You would think, just naturally, you would think, oh, like somebody from the 90s, somebody from the 80s, from the 60s through 90s. I would have blamed it on that because that's when a lot of serial killers were out and about. That time frame, or really the 90s and before, but a lot of serial killers were out and about then around those times. Anyways, the concept of the Wendigo psychosis is a fascinating and chilling aspect of the legend. It describes a condition in which individuals become obsessed with the desire to consume human flesh, even when other food sources are available. The psychology behind the phenomenon has been studied by anthropologists and psychologists, adding a layer of complexity to the Wendigo legend. The psychology aspect is very interesting to see, as always. The anthropology is also interesting to see. Not just psychology, the anthropologist going into this case as well. Throughout the 20th and 21st century, that would be the 1900s and the 2000s, the Wendigo has remained a powerful symbol in pop culture, as appeared in literature, films, television, TV shows, as I was saying earlier, often portrayed as a supernatural force of nature that embodies the primal fear of cannibalism and isolation. That's where they twist it. That's where shows and media does twist it a slight bit. Of it still keeps the cannibalistic aspects, but it's not like, oh, a person turns into a Wendigo. It's just a spirit, and it's already in its form, which is always interesting to see. In recent years, sightings and reports of Wendigo have continued to emerge, particularly in the remote forests of Canada and the northern United States. The modern encounters often describe terrifying creature lurking in the woods, haunting presence that chills the soul, which is really, you're in the woods, deep in the woods by yourself. It could be really anything looking at you, and you just get that feel of oh wait, I feel like something's watching me. Everybody should know what that feeling is. If you don't, get your head checked out, please. Anyways, one notable sighting occurred in the early 2000s near the town of Kenora, Ontario, which is sometimes referred as the Wendigo capital of the world. Residents reported seeing a tall, emaciated figure with the glowing eyes roaming the outskirts of the town. These sightings have only added to the Wendigo's terrifying reputation. So this is an interesting point to just a point to get out there. What it's pretty much saying, I think this is one of the first cryptids that we've seen that's just not a solo being, because the Kraken and the Megalodon are probably the two most likely to not be a solo being, and it's several different. There's more than one of them, but this is like the one confirmed. There is more than one of them. With the Kraken and the Megalodon, there could only be one left. There could be only one left for the Kraken. There could only be one left for the Meg, or there could be none left for the Kraken or the Meg. So it's always interesting to see how much difference we can figure. We can figure between going through these different cryptids as we do, because Bigfoot's a solo creature, the Yeti is a solo creature, the Tylemane wouldn't be, but that was technically a real animal, so it's debatable. But that's always interesting to go through. The Chupacabra was a solo animal, the Jackalope, the Jersey Devil, pretty much majority, if not all, of things we have done on this channel have been solo creatures. This is the first one that we have branched off into there are possibilities of several of them, not just one. So, what could explain the Wendigo legend? Scholars believe it is a cautionary tale against the dangers of greed, selfishness, and isolation in times of extreme hunger and cold. These stories may have been a way to enforce social norms and ensure community survival, which at the time and stuff, I do see that. I do see that a lot. So that's also like a fair point that I would see that actually happening and say, oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. It was just a folklore thing between different tribes that says, oh, like, make sure you don't get greedy during hard times. Make sure you make sure you stay in the community, and we will work together. Make sure we have social norms so that there's nothing wrong and doesn't make anything come of that, which completely makes sense. But hey, it's better to just say, yeah, this thing's real. Prove me wrong. And nobody can do it, so, like, ain't nobody gonna be able to do nothing, right? Right. Anyways, despite the varied interpretations of the Wendigo, one thing remains clear: the Wendigo is a symbol of the darkest aspect of human nature and the thin line between survival and monstrosity, whether seen as a literal creature or a metaphor for human depravity. The Wendigo continues to haunt our collective consciousness. This is probably one of the more interesting cryptids that will stick with you for a while. But anyways, it's time to wrap this up. Thanks for joining me today. It's always good to go into the unknown things. I'm wanting to go into more supernatural-esque content. I'm thinking about doing some videos on kids' books and Disney stories and go into the actual dark realities and the dark, twisted original tales, which I think that would be fun to go into, and also go into the people the Conjuring movies were based off of and go into depth on each of those encounters and see which how different they are and all of that. But anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and sure you hit the bell. And as always, I will see you in the next one.